What is up, Hawk fans? Let's discuss Iowa's yet another disappointing second half surge from the opposing team, Michigan State, on senior night. Loss, of course, to Michigan State. And probably the most interesting aspect of this game was Tom Izzo's comments before the game and after the game. By the way, guys, I just went ahead and just threw this on. Iowa men's basketball does not have me excited enough to get all dolled up for the video. So your boy's just wearing the Hawkeye shirt and a normal long sleeve shirt. But yeah, I would say that the most interesting aspect was Tom Izzo's comments, because what Iowa did is what Iowa always does. They have shown that they can compete for stretches with top 25, top 30, top 25, top 35 caliber teams, depending on where it's at, if it's a home game, a road game, whatever. Mainly at home, which obviously does give Iowa an added benefit. They do usually perform well. They perform well, but they certainly perform better at home than they do on the road. But they don't have enough to do what it takes to win in the long run. And so this is just yet another classic example. And this is why Michigan State is the Big Ten regular season champ and 25-5, and Iowa is 15-15. The difference is those crucial moments that decide the game. Decent average teams can compete for certain stretches, but the teams that are above average, good, elite can compete when it matters most. They find a third or a second, third, fourth gear to go to. They find a way to get it done. Just really quickly in this game, Jackson Kohler, who maybe you guys forgot who he is. A lot of people thought he was going to go to Iowa. I believe he was from Utah, the state of Utah, or California. It's either California or Utah. But he notably and vocally spurned Iowa because he didn't want to be compared to Luka Garza, as if Michigan State didn't have a ton of players that were, all-time great players. But he had 15 points. Jace Richardson had 22 points. Like I said, Iowa won the first half 37-30, and they got blitzed in the second half 61-47. Fran McCaffrey, of course, said a lot of it had to do with free throws. But the thing is, guys, is sometimes one team is just fouling more than the other. As an official myself, I can say that, yes, you want to keep it balanced. And as a crew, you don't want to insert yourself so much to where you are starting to dictate the game too much, especially if it's dictating in favor of one team. But yes, sometimes one team is just fouling more than the other. And sometimes one team is more aggressive and the other team is playing lazy defense. And, they're coming down instead of staying straight up. They're reaching. They're all those things. So Peyton Sandfort, 15 points, 7 rebounds. An okay game. Nothing crazy. Seydou Traore had a pretty good game in 20 minutes. He had 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Lajai Dembele, 4 points, 1 rebound. Totally not sufficient for Iowa's essentially their center. Josh Dix, 18 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Pretty good game from him. Drew Thelwell, 7 points, 2 assists. Price Sanford, 12 points, 7 rebounds. The one good thing about this season has been the emergence of Price Sanford. I actually am a lot higher on him than Peyton. And I've detailed this in previous videos about 100 times. When he came to Iowa, he was a different player than Peyton. I think he's quicker. I think he's a little bit more explosive athletically. His arsenal from mid-range to dribbling to passing is more refined, more well-rounded. When he played at Waukee, he was more of a point forward, whereas Peyton Sandfort was a forward, and when he came to Iowa, he was a forward again. So Price Sandfort fits well in kind of this positionless offense that Fran McCaffrey has. Evan Braun, 7 points. Brock Harding, 6 points. 6 assists, 4 rebounds in 13 minutes. So he actually played good for the minutes that he received. And the team stats, Michigan State shot 50.8%, Iowa 47%. Three-pointers 39 to 31% in favor of Iowa. Free throws, Michigan State shot 30 free throws. They were 67%. Iowa shot 18 free throws and were 83%. Total rebounds 36 to 35. Iowa has actually rebounded slightly better the last 5 to 6 games. I do have to give credit where credit's due. It's not like, it's been massively better, but it's been better. They are not getting, tore up, by a 10 rebound differential like they were, but it's too little too late, Blocks 5 to 5, assists 18 to 15 in favor of Iowa, steals 6 to 4 in favor of Michigan State, turnovers, Iowa had 10, Michigan State had 15. So the main thing, let me pull up the KenPom here, and I'm going to detail this in my final video of the season. I don't want to keep this video too long. We're already at 7 minutes. Iowa is 72nd in the KenPom. They have the 31st best offensive efficiency, so still good. I wouldn't say elite quite. At times, their offense has been elite this year, but I think 31 is about accurate. They're a good offense. They're not one of the best offenses that Fran McCaffrey has had, but they're still good. But it's not so good to where they're able to overshadow and overcome the horrid defense. Iowa is 174th in defensive efficiency. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Just to put that into perspective, last year, Iowa was 57th in the KenPom. They were 16th in offensive efficiency at 119.6, and they were 157th, so a little bit better, but still better. And that's one thing I was wrong about this year. This year I said that they had more athleticism, they had more pieces on the perimeter, especially from a forward perspective, and I thought that they were going to be able to defend and be a top 100. And boy, was I wrong about that. So sorry about that, guys. I'm not happy that I was wrong about that. Like I said, at the end of the day, this Iowa team, yes, there's been injuries, and I want to give credit to that. It's hard to overcome missing one of your top 3 players in Owen Freeman, especially for Iowa. Drew Thelwell has been out for multiple games. Iowa definitely would have missed having Cooper Koch, a.k.a. Cooper Coke, a.k.a. Cooper Coach. So I do want to point that out. But even when those guys were healthy, we weren't seeing the improvements that we needed to see in some of these areas. And at the end of the day, a lot of these things are cultural. A lot of these things are systemic that Iowa needs to fix. So the main thing I want to talk about is Tom Izzo's comments. So he basically said, careful what you wish for. Maybe I can get it pulled up here so you guys can hear a little bit of it. But he essentially said, careful what you wish for. He talked before the game that he's a big fan of Fran McCaffrey. Actually, they have it here. Watch what you wish for. It's easy to throw stones. Fran, he's one of my favorite guys because he does speak his own piece and he's very smart. And I know this. He's sticking around if it's up to me because I need him. I need some of the guys that helped build this conference again, and he's one of them. I think tonight proves it. We had everything to play for. They didn't have much to play for. I'm supposed to be such a good coach. He kicked my butt, our butt, for most of that time. And Fran McCaffrey said, I appreciate him saying that. I really do. He wouldn't say that if he didn't believe it, so I appreciate that. It's a reflection on these guys and how they keep fighting. I'm really proud of them. He also said that Iowa is basically bottom of the Big Ten when it comes to basketball resources. You know, I don't know that I agree with that. You know, these things are pretty fluid. Iowa could be better, but part of that is on Fran McCaffrey. It's not all on Fran McCaffrey, but some of it is on Fran McCaffrey to improve the money that is coming into his program and getting these donors, big donors, excited about men's basketball and the direction that he has them going. But that is a major problem. The fan base is tremendously apathetic when it comes to how they view Iowa men's basketball. So all things being equal, you know, Iowa is not the most profitable university in the Big Ten. I'd say they're probably middle of the pack, sometimes approaching, you know, top 8, 7. You know, they do get a lot of fan participation, which is a main source of revenue. So, but I also think there's a lot of people that downplay Iowa, which doesn't make sense because most of the revenue that these universities get is from fan participation, which from Iowa has always been good. It's not the best, okay, but it's good. It's a classic Big Ten program. Iowa fans love the University of Iowa sports. So, but all things being equal, that's where Iowa is at. And when you add to it an apathetic response from the fan base, it's going to be even worse. So some of that is on Fran McCaffrey. But he said that, you know, he said that Fran McCaffrey's a great coach. You know, careful what you wish for. He said that he was there for a 3-year stint where people wanted his job, and it just goes in ebbs and flows. So here's my thought on it. I've already said some of my thoughts on it, but especially the money aspect. The money aspect is an issue because, again, if the head coach is not generating buzz, that needs to be taken into consideration. Somebody commented on one of my videos that Iowa City, when it comes to men's basketball versus women's basketball, Iowa City has become far more of a women's basketball school than men's basketball. And you know what? If you would have told me that last year, I would have said that that's not true, even with the emergence of Caitlin Clark and things like that, especially from the average fan. Now, this person said Iowa City, which is different from the average fan, but honestly, he's probably right. He's probably right. I would still say from the average Iowa fan that doesn't live in Iowa City, men's basketball is probably like slightly more popular. But still, I mean, it's really close. And again, this is no shade on the women's side. Maybe I should talk about women's basketball more considering their recent success. It's hard to find the time to do it. But that's on Fran McCaffrey. Now, as for Tom Izzo's comments, is there some truth to what he's saying? Yes. Okay, I have said many times that it is true. You know, sometimes what you have is much better than what you think you could get, especially if you make the wrong decision in your change. You know, look at Nebraska football. They have been at the bottom of the barrel. They've been in an abyss because of always wanting more. But at the same time, always wanting more is also why a program like Nebraska far outkicks their coverage as far as resources and recruiting pipeline and population in the state of Nebraska, you know, things like that go, because they have this you know, massively huge sense of self-worth, and they're always striving for more. So, you know, you look at Iowa with that. But just again, you know, that just speaks to the careful for what you wish for. Tennessee football, similar, not like as much recently, but you know, 6 years ago. So, you know, USC football, it is true, but it just depends on what your philosophy is. If your philosophy is that you would rather have a high ceiling and maybe not be as consistently decent or solid, but your peaks are super high, or you're somebody who would rather just be solid, average to solid, but your peaks are not very high. It depends on what your philosophy is. I would say I'm somewhere in the middle, and I think that there is a middle ground between those two things. I think Tom Izzo saying this was as much self-preservation for him as anything else. I think he was speaking on himself, and you know, Fran McCaffrey is a guy that is one of the few guys that is still around from years ago when battling with Tom Izzo. You know, they're both about the same age. If you don't think that these guys talk to each other on the recruiting trails, you're sadly mistaken. Especially in basketball, where they go to these tournaments and they sit with one another and they socialize and talk. So they have a relationship. I think Tom Izzo saying these things is just as much a reflection of his self-preservation and his bias for his coaching situation, as opposed to it 100% being correct, and Iowa needs to just be happy with Fran McCaffrey because he is a really dang good coach and this and that. So the answer is probably somewhere in the middle of what Tom Izzo said. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for me. Iowa loses again. They're now 15-15. They're probably going to finish with a losing record, which I did not predict. Just to wrap this up, I want to pull up their last like 10 games just to show how bad they have been of late. So, you know, in that middle part, you know, they got the victory over Nebraska. After the Wisconsin game, they got the victory over Indiana. And then they really had the skid. USC, UCLA, Minnesota was a bad loss. And then, you know, they rebounded and won against Penn State. But then they went on another losing spree. Ohio State, Purdue, Wisconsin again, all at home. Or, well, two of those were at home. Ohio State was on the road. So they have only won 2 games in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In their last 10 games, Iowa has only won 2 games. So, you know, take that for what you will. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. In fact, your feelings, because your feelings just so matter. Love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.